This is the Marketing Agency Power Hour, and I'm your host, Cal Wilder. Each week, we'll power through discussions on business challenges, success stories, and game-changing strategies. This show is sponsored by SmartBooks, provider of bookkeeping and accounting for marketing agencies. Let's get started. I'm really looking forward to talking to today's guest. He's a visionary entrepreneur, a digital media pioneer, an inspirational Scrum Master, and overall a trailblazing marketing leader. He's a civic-minded entrepreneur who combines technology and design to develop tools that empower creativity. He's got a proven track record of bringing stories to life for the media industry, the public sector, and beyond. He's the creator and lead maintainer of Timber. He is the co-founder and currently the CFO and COO of Upstatement. Jared Novack, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really excited for today's conversation.
So let's dig right in. First big question. What is the single most powerful strategy for success in your marketing agency now?
Yeah, big question. And I'm going to say it's, for us, it has really been getting serious about data. A few years ago, we were acquired by a new company. And as part of that, we were doing a lot of due diligence and they kept asking, where's your profit coming from? Which projects are most profitable? And I was so darn embarrassed. I was like, I don't know. And that really kind of began us on a journey to figure out that answer. And wow, it was a long and difficult road. But now that we know it, it is really unlocking all kinds of potential and power.
That sounds like a big undertaking. Where did you start? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah. So for us, we are really a project-based business. As much as I would love to have that big, juicy year-long contract that we can sign once and then not worry about again till a year later. The way our business works is a really quick metabolism. We get a project, we swarm on it, we do it, we rock it, and we move on to the next. And part of that means you have to know kind of like, where is that next meal, right? So the journey really began in terms of like taking the things that were in everyone's heads, because we've got a number of principals who are all kind of working with different accounts and different leaders, different stakeholders to figure out their next job and saying, we got to get it out of your head. We got to get it into a CRM. We got to be in HubSpot. And that was one of the key unlocks in terms of like, all right, step one, let's make sure that nothing is trapped away in someone's upstairs. Let's get it into a place that everyone can see as a common source of truth. And that, as much as a data challenge, is just a cultural and political challenge. People are used to their connections. They love, I text with this person, I email back and forth. We get that, but what we got to do is make sure that they are supported. So HubSpot was a big help in terms of like making sure that, okay, that knowledge is centralized. Once that knowledge was centralized, we really wanted to make sure, okay, if we have all these numbers, how can we look at this day to day or week to week and get a pulse on like what that pipeline looks like? And as much as you would think, isn't that stuff that HubSpot has already worked through, has already figured out? The shocking answer was no. You got to do that. And that began with, a lot of manual calculations and pulling reports and Excel stuff, and got into, full automation so that now I can go in and every hour on the hour, we do a complete resweep of the entire pipeline and spit out a new number. So we can know to the dollar what we can expect coming in for next month, month ahead, the year ahead, every single hour. And that is always kept up to date automatically.
Culturally, how did you get the buy-in of your people to such a big change?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't easy. And I think the change was, in order to make that worthwhile for the people on the other end, all the principals and key leaders that are in those driver's seats, it's got to be a win-win. If you just say, hey, give me data for my great data project in the sky. All right, they're nice people. They're going to help you for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but then they got other stuff to do, So the win really came with when we could kind of complete that loop and show them what is that live calculation at first every week. And they were like, wow, this is really good to know. Oh, geez, did you know about this other job that we had going on? And we're like, no, you didn't tell us. Okay, well, I want to put that in. I want to see that number get bigger, right? Line go up. That is so much of the motivation that I think you can kind of lock people into. And once they could kind of really feel, okay, I put this information in, number gets bigger, my number gets bigger. That's when we really started to see that sort of like full cycle. They could get as much as they were giving from that data project.
Great. And what are some of the tangible benefits that you can point to of getting such a mastery over the data in your business?
Yeah, I mean, well, so much of what SmartBooks helped with kind of our journey, I think we started working with you all about 5 years ago. And you were the first group to really help us see, okay, how's this business performing? We could look at before that, I was going by the bank account, which, hey, that gives you a pretty darn good idea. But when you actually see good, clean historical financials, you can really see, okay, we had a monster February. Don't know what the heck happened in March. And, fingers crossed for April. Well, that's really what we wanted to change. Instead of fingers crossed for April, what is April actually going to be, right? What is May, June, July going to be? So that has been the piece that has really helped unlock. As opposed to that being a historical exercise, we kind of look back. We can now look where we are in this present moment and say, okay, how hard do we need to push to get this client to sign the contract? Or if we're looking really good, do we actually want to hold back, maybe push that project off to May or June? Or, you know what? I would do it, but I'd only do it if it's worth my while. Let's actually push them on price here and see how valuable it is for them to get going sooner or waiting and trying to price and quantify all those things. So it's given us that sort of like active speed gauge. You got to know how fast your car is going if you really get anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you're probably among, if not the most advanced at this data and financial analysis of many of the marketing agency owners I speak with. And I think a lot of people in the audience may say, wow, I wish I could do that in my business, or it's something close to what you've done,
Yeah.
if not all that you've done. But what advice would you have for listeners who are interested in getting more control over their own data?
Yeah. The first thing is there is no system that is going to solve all your problems. And that is on two folds. First, a million SaaS products out there. If you've been looking every day for saying, what is the unlock? Is it going to be Harvest? Is it going to be Parallax? Is it going to be, the next thing? Yeah, those are all going to help, but they're not going to fundamentally make your business. What we have found is the unlock is saying like, okay, how can each part of our various sort of like problem stack or tech stack help us solve a different specific and individual problem? And then how can you knit those together in a way that is going to allow you to kind of gain insight and control across different platforms? For example, HubSpot, great CRM, doesn't get to do anything in terms of being able to measure your project profitability. That said, if you focus just on the profitability metrics that you might get out of a, team resource planner or time tracking or other things, well, you're missing half the story through the sort of deals and accounts that you have in the pipeline. So the challenge is, I think, to get the most out of your efforts is to figure out, well, how do you connect those? And that is, I think, a challenge. It's an important challenge, but at the same time, it's not going to solve all your challenges because you're still thinking about systems. And ultimately, what you're doing as a business owner, as an operator, is figuring how you connect your people to those systems. So unfortunately, there's no systems silver bullet, including one you might build yourself to be exactly that silver bullet. It still comes down to the people, right?
Right. The software isn't going to run the business for you. It's the people and the processes and using the software and technology as tools. But, right, it's the people, it's the culture, it's the process. Right.
As much as I wish, God, if only you could solve culture through software, right? That software would be $1 million. But no,
Yeah.
you can't solve it. You still have to do that hard work of interfacing and interacting and thinking about how these things work together and how software can take some of the pieces that are unclear, stressful, redundant, boring, and say, you know what? Great news. This system is now going to do that for you so we can really unlock your creativity over here. But that sometimes gets the question. Okay, well, what is the relationship between the two? Because sometimes they are in tension.
And so we talked about using data, and let's talk a little bit about the end that you're using it for. Like it's very powerful, but what's the successful outcome that you're trying to achieve? What does success look like to you? How do you measure it? Is it growth? Is it profitability? Is it quality? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe some of all of the above, but what does success really look like when you put all this data to work?
Right. So for us, we as a company, so we've been around for 17 years. But we've said the thing that always exists at the top of the upstatement pyramid is the quality of the work. We don't just want to be good enough. We don't just want to be pretty good for our area. We want to be the best in the world. And that is what we push for every single day on every single project with every single account. What the data allows us to do is to make sure that to feed that machine, we are getting the right amount of gasoline in the tank to make sure that we are going exactly as far as we need to with each car trip. I will butcher this analogy to death, so just bear with me. But it's so important that each project have the right resources to succeed, right? And that comes from two directions. You got to make sure that the clients are appropriately valuing your services. Because if you're doing world-class work, you need to find world-class clients. If you're doing world-class work for the plumbing business, hey, no doubt they would love to have it, but is that really going to help them sell more sink fixes? No. But for a major sneaker company, retailer, fashion brand, magazine, et cetera, those are the things they need. So it's making sure, first off, you got that right connection. On the other side, it's got to make sure that you've got the right resources that are going into those projects. As much as, we know it to be true, in this agency, that projects, accounts, et cetera, are naturally in tension with each other. An hour I spend on client A, that's an hour I'm not spending on client B. So how do you make sure you measure and kind of regulate those things in the right way without sort of policing or obsessing over fractional hours, right? There's nothing that can kill creativity quite like, 4.2 hours that I've thought about that project, got to move on, right? You have to figure out some way that really translates that to your creative so they understand, hey, someone is looking out for me. Someone is backing me up. Someone is there to make sure we don't trip and fall. So how does that then help them do their jobs instead of getting in the way of them, their jobs?
Makes sense. Makes sense, Jared. Um, what are some of the challenges that you're facing these days that you have to overcome to make sure you are delivering on that quality and successful outcome?
Whew, yeah, if only it were all so easy. I think the big challenges are right now. I mean, I think we are in. I said to someone the other day here, I would love to go a couple years without a major economic crisis. Wouldn't that be nice? Where it has been, all through Upstatement's history, just one thing after another in terms of Great Recession, slow recoveries, the COVID crisis, work from home era, and now, the current moment with tariffs and global trade war. Be nice to have a moment of calm, right? And that's the problem. Sometimes with data, it can tell you exactly what you need to know about the past. And as long as that future looks a lot like the past, we're going to be fine. Well, what if the future is going to look nothing like the past? What do we do there? And that comes back to sort of like all those very real human needs that you still need to have when it comes to using any of these things as a guidebook. Past performance is no indicator of future results. And every day, still another day that we got to fight for every single job, show up in the best possible way. In those client moments, those client pitches, being able to connect the creative work to the challenges and questions that people have. I wish software could solve it. I don't think it ever will.
Yeah. So to put it differently, right? You're trying to manage uncertainty, avoid resting on your laurels, have a little bit of healthy paranoia. Got to keep bringing your A game every single day, right?
Right. Because if there isn't an agency today that isn't thinking about how can I be more efficient next time out? How can I do a better job? Utilize AI, what have you. I don't know if they're still going to exist. So I got to assume every single group out there is doing the exact same thing. And our clients are doing the same thing. We aren't just competing with other agencies. We're competing against the teams that clients have built up. And a lot of these teams have grown, quite large, quite capable, quite robust. And it's not that I'm trying to knock them out of place, anything but I want to figure out how we work with those internal teams to say, what can an outside consultant do that sometimes you're not able to fully see when you're inside the beast? And then what do y'all know best that it's actually better for you to kind of think about the implementation challenges when it comes to, rolling out a complex new brand. It's not just about a new shape or colors. It's about how all of those things actually hit the tools and template that hundreds or thousands of marketers or communications professionals are going to use. Complicated problems and also ones that can sometimes be very specific to each organization. Again, certain powers that we have come in from the outside, being able to share perspective and knowledge that we glean from working with so many others. But so much of what we don't want to do is sort of come into someone else's house and start telling them how to fix their supper.
Right. So you're working with some pretty large clients who typically will have some internal marketing folks as well?
Yeah, it's a mix. A lot of the companies that we work with are startups and they're saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't tie my shoes." I mean, I take that back. They can tie their shoes and they're doing incredible stuff kind of at the leading edge of, energy tech or clean tech, for example. But they've got no marketing function at all. And they're looking for us to basically cover the entire field of that. Then you also have like Fortune 100, Fortune 10 companies who have, not just a couple people or a couple hundred people, but a couple hundred departments and global organizations that all need to communicate. Yeah. Goodness, we can't get in there and start telling them, okay, here's the differences of like what you're going to need for the on the ground team in Malaysia and Japan. We have to trust that there are ways and they have ways to translate some of the big ideas and how they might reach local markets.
So you are very deep currently in finance and operations. How did you get to that point, right? Because you're started out as a marketing guy, right? Doing creative work or technology work?
No, no, no. Yeah. Marketing, that was the enemy. I was a journalist. Um, I came from a world of doing information graphics in newsrooms. So marketers, far from being friends, they were foes in newsrooms. In fact, literally the advertising people, the marketing people, and the newsroom people, they all talk. We're different camps. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys, right?
Huh.
Um, but what led me and my two of the partners, we all worked in journalism. What led us to kind of found Upstatement was the idea that a lot of these key skills of journalistic storytelling, massive applicability to the marketing world. And especially in that era, this is, late 2008, 2009 into the 20 teens, looking to craft some more kind of holistic and authentic messages that actually matched reality. I think there was at that time, and I mean, sure still is. We don't want marketing junk. We want the truth, and that's so much of the fundamental ideas of journalism that we were able to bring out of those newsrooms and say, well, how can these help? At first it was higher ed, nonprofits, institutions, other editorial organizations, but now it's grown into, major corporations and stuff. We're looking for some of the same sort of editorial mindset.
Huh. Okay. So you went from journalism to running Upstatement. Let's go back a little bit further. Younger Jared.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd be founder and principal of your own business?
I mean, it all comes back around. I remember I was maybe in like fifth or sixth grade. My parents got a Mac for me and my brother to play on. Really got into graphics. This is pre-Photoshop. There was something called ClarisWorks that.
Yes, I remember
All right.
ClarisWorks.
All right. Yeah. I say that now to people at my company. They're probably like, what, grandpa, huh?
There used to be a predecessor to Excel on the Mac too. What was that called? Journix or
Oh,
something? I
really?
can't remember, but I remember some of those old applications. I think we may be of a similar age. We
Yeah.
used all these apps on Macs before PCs took over.
Before it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would do little like, designs in, again, pre-Photoshop, Claris Paint or ClarisWorks drawing or something. And I remember one summer I put up like flyers that was like, Jared advertising and graphics on like the local community bulletin board. Never got any calls, unfortunately, one of those like tear off things. So this was always kind of in my mix of things that I knew I wanted to do. I started film school and that lasted about 2 weeks. So I knew that creative output and expression was always going to be a part of the future. And then somehow, started Upstatement with a couple of friends who saw things similarly and then realized that finance and operations, there was so much creative space there as well that can be developed.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm obviously a lot of what we do at SmartBooks is bookkeeping and accounting. It's policy, procedure, consistency. Not You don't always want a lot of creativity in your accountants, but they always say the accountants are really good at telling you what happened in the past.
Mhm.
But it's kind of the CFOs who worry about the future.
Hmm.
And yeah, the past is interesting, but their focus is what's going to happen in the future and how do we position the business financially for success in the future, right? And so that's kind of
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
No, there's a word you use there, creativity, right? And I think people think of creativity and they think like, oh, crazy, wild, off the wall. But creativity actually means you're creating something. That is output. That is something that people can look at, think about, touch. And that is a really important piece of accounting, bookkeeping, and the way that you separate or tell stories with numbers. I mean, that is a real creative expression. And I could lead a company in very different ways depending on which stories I decided to emphasize or highlight. I'm going to fight back that you don't want a creative accountant. I think someone with the right creativity.
I agree. They're hard to find though. I agree with you though. Mm. Um, so you've got a lot of good experience under your belt. So if you look kind of with the benefit of hindsight, if you go back in time to when you first started Upstatement, give yourself some advice. What would you tell yourself?
Oh, so many things. I mean, economic crises, right? It's going to be okay. These things happen. It's going to be okay. I think the biggest thing that I have learned, just sort of like outside of finance or operations or anything, is like as a leader and a manager, it's get out of the way and figuring out the right ways to lead and guide a team. I mean, I look back every month and I'm like, what an idiot. I can't believe I thought that or said that or did that. But I finally feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it and really figuring out how to create space for people. And then once you've created it, get as far away as you can and let them do their jobs. That's the thing that I wish I could go back and redo because I feel like over the years, being in a place of like, servant leadership, right? I'm such a good leader. I'm going to do your job for you. And man, nothing sounds better and is worse at the same time because you can't grow your business and you can't grow your people when you're standing on top of them saying, don't worry, don't worry. Why don't you take it easy? I'll do this and you can watch.
Right. Then you become the bottleneck. You're spending time doing things that aren't really adding the most value to the business,
Nah.
and your people aren't learning and growing as much as they could be.
Oh, but you're also stressed out like crazy. So there's that.
Yeah. Good luck taking a vacation.
Right. And it puts you at the center of things. And I think, you want to be a lot of places as a business owner, but I don't think it's at the center. I think it's in different areas that you can really pay attention to and swarm on and fix, standing at the perimeter and saying, how can I help and direct? But then recognizing that like, even if you think you could quote, do it better, it's not your job, it's someone else's.
Yeah. And I know in my experience, I've gone through phases where I've worked that way, unfortunately. And I've also come to appreciate that other people have skills that I don't have, and maybe I think I can do it better, but they might do it differently, and it may be better. Just because my way is my way doesn't mean it's the best way all the time. And so I found that I can really learn from observing how other people tackle challenges or do the work, because they may have better ideas than I do,
Right.
which is great.
And what a gift you get to be better at next time then, because you just saw a real expert do it instead of yourself.
Yes. So outside of work, what do you like to do, Jared?
Oh, well, right now, so I got two daughters, age 3 and age 6. And uh what I like to do is what they like to do. So whether that is taking them to gymnastics and dance class, I do a little bit of assistant coaching on soccer, not actual coaching because there's a guy he actually knows how to play soccer, so I don't like to get in the middle of that one. And trying to really you know help them. That's the fun and work right now. And my wife is Canadian, so we wanted to get him out on skis pretty early. So One of my daughters, ski trained a year or two before she was potty trained.
That's great. You keep them outside and keep them active and off the computer. That's my challenge with my boys. They just want to be on the computer all the time, playing games, talking to friends.
Ugh, I wish they would do a computer. Right now, it's iPads and Coco Melon. That's the real enemy.
Yeah, my kids are a few years older, I guess, but
Yeah.
yeah, yep, that's cool. Yeah, kids definitely change your life. I remember my kids are almost 14 now. I get twin boys, and I remember seems like just yesterday they were born. But it's definitely life changing. Your priorities change very quickly.
Your priorities change. And here's what I found. I swear this happens to other people in my company who've become parents. I think it makes you so sharp. It makes you so sharp because you realize every single minute at work is precious to some degree. A, it's your time, but also it is a time that you need to choose really judiciously because you can't just push this stuff into 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. You got a much more important job to do. So the hours you spend between 9 and 5, be smart, be judicious about it. And I've seen so many people, they come back from that parental leave and they are sharp, they are focused, they are ready and a better version of the person who left. If only we could have all that time back in our 20s.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're young and haven't quite figured out how to manage your workload, you can work 7 days a week. Maybe you work cut out working on Saturday or Sunday. You work 6 days a week. Then you have kids. You're like, I'm only working 5 days a week, and I'm really trying to squeeze it in between 9 to 5 as much as possible. And I want to be able to cut out and go to go to some afternoon school event or something every now and then. And yeah, it forces you to prioritize and manage time and not fritter it away.
Right. And back to data, you can use that and say, like, all right, where am I wasting my time? And it turns out a lot of work is, and I'm not talking about those human things that you do. That's a good time. But all the activities, some of the things you put together and obsess on, whoops, you know, the world's most perfect email does not go in anything but the great Google archive in the sky.
That's a good way to put it. Um, awesome. Um, so Jared, you've got a lot of experience people might want to tap into. If folks want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Oh yeah. So obviously check out our website, upstatement.com. And if for some crazy reason you actually want to find me, I'm just Jared at upstatement.com or an email. And yeah, I don't write the world's most perfect emails anymore, but I love talking to people, getting ideas. I mean, so much of what we've been able to do at Upstatement comes from the fact that we're part of professional networks. For your audience, the Society of Digital Agencies, great trade group of about 150 agencies, I think right now, and learn so gosh darn much from, just the email listservs that come across. Anyone dealing with this, anyone have an answer here? You watch that stuff and you're like, oh, shoot, that's a good idea. I should do that.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I mean, one of the goals here with the marketing agency power hour is to kind of build out a community and connect people if they can help each other with challenges they're facing in their own agency. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a great resource because, as we were kind of talking about at the top with competition, I mean, it's uh, uh, work hard. There's some people we know who we know we're bidding against in jobs, and we want to beat them, but gosh, we love them, and we get to connect in forums like that, and realize we're all kind of fighting this together and doing our best work and pushing each other.
Well, thank you, Jared. You've, really probably opened the eyes and ears of some of the listeners around the importance of using data and analytics to benefit their agencies. And you've talked about the importance of matching, you know, the right clients with your own business model and practices and priorities and prioritizing your time and balancing family and work. And this is all good stuff. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with me on this episode and share this information with the audience.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So for those listening, if you learned something today or you laughed or cried or something, tell somebody about this podcast. Let's get some good information into other people's hands and provide some thought leadership to help out your peers in this industry. Thanks again, Jared.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And thanks, also for years of collaborating with Smart Books. Y'all have been a big part of that journey and really helped us, understand what it is to run a successful business.
You're welcome, Jared. This has been another exciting episode of the Marketing Agency Power Hour. We will see you all next time. Another episode in the books. Thank you so much for tuning in. For show notes and more, please visit marketingagencypowerhour.com. This show is sponsored by SmartBooks, providing marketing agencies with bookkeeping, accounting, and finance support. With SmartBooks, you gain the clarity and confidence to make your agency a success. Until next time,